Roll call.
Parker?
Here.
Miscelinich?
Here.
Olson?
Here.
Zittergruen?
Here.
Jizzle? Here. Whittle?
Here.
Neal?
Here.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to make a comment? Hearing, seeing none. City manager, department heads, and council reports?
Only thing I'll provide, so the council held the work session with Senator Clemish, Representative Bergen. We were hearing, we at the Iowa League of Cities Legislative Policy Committee were hearing changes coming on the two proposals that are currently at the House and Senate. We were told that subcommittee meetings were going to be scheduled for tomorrow, I believe. Those have been canceled actually on the existing bills. And there's still discussions about potential changes forthcoming. So that does throw into question even further. I believe Senator Clemish was the one that said it's 50-50 chance on whether legislation happens this year or not. So they are in overtime right now. Last week was supposed to be the end and was the end of per diem. So obviously they have a budget to adopt as well. So they've got that priority that they must do before they can adjourn. We'll see if we see legislation this year or not.
Anything else? Carrie? Anything from department heads other than, looks like Mark's got something?
Yeah, just
All right, so wanted to give an update on fundraising for Decorah Athletic Complex. We've got a team meeting, we've got a team of 10 that are meeting on a weekly basis, and individuals of individuals, teams of 2 meeting with businesses. So we've been doing that for the last week and a half, and we'll have some additional meetings this week. And we're getting some marketing materials from ISG, some nice promotional things. So they're comping those for us and also looking into grants too. One example is the Destination Iowa grant. So definitely focusing on that, and we'll have that focus for throughout the month of May and likely longer. So wanted to give that update.
Thank you very much.
And Destination Iowa has a pre-application, so we'll submit that first inquiry by the 15th of this month, and then formal application follows after that if invited back.
Okay. Council, let's go down to Emily. Should we go?
I just wanted to ask for an update on the fire department and Brunton, where we sit with that. And then May work session, hoping we could bring back the fire discussion. I'd really like to see some timeline on that. I was thinking about the school bond process and how if we're, which I hope we are all on board with, a bond this fall, then we probably need a plan, and I don't want to do it like the school did it. I don't want to ask for money that we don't have a plan for.
Okay.
So on that regard, I just wanted to see what the update was with Brunton and Standing, and could we, if we can't do it on a May session, can we stay late one night or come early to one of our regular meetings?
Okay. All right, so tackle first the update on Brunton part. Brunton is kind of on hold. They did ask for some further clarification on scope that we'd want to see from them. As you remember, during that last work session, there would be additional costs potentially on getting renderings or things like that if we're getting past the box diagram space kind of discussion. I did reach out to actually another consultant. I reached out to ISG and said, hey, can you give me validation on where these numbers stand with you guys? Are you seeing similar bid pricing per square footage? They actually thought those numbers that Brunton had proposed for construction costs were a little light, and gave some, again, very surface level preliminary feedback on ways to reduce whether it's bay length or possible square footage as well. if we want to do another, try to remember the second half of the question. Can you say it again?
Well, I think if that's the case, then we need to meet sooner than later. Like this, that, to me, that sounds like stalled,
Mhm.
and you need information from us.
Mhm.
And that, to me, makes me feel like we should meet
Mhm.
before next, our next council meeting. Let's meet before it and get it moving again.
Okay. Two-parter work session with sustainability plan?
Well, you mean at the end of the month? Does it need to happen, like,
It
could
could
we?
happen at the end of a council meeting as well.
What if we did the fire meeting on the May 17th? Is that what it is? No, 18, 19, right?
19.
May 19th, could we do the fire meeting in conjunction with that city council meeting and then sustainability at the end of the month?
I won't be here on May 19th. And given that, I'm one of the voices that keeps pushing against this, maybe it'll make your life easier, but don't be frustrated if I come and have concerns if you all press ahead without me.
I feel like the end of May is too late, personally. So, what about and you can't zoom in, Steve? Sorry, I have to put you on the
I'm on a
spot.
plane, I'm sorry.
What,
Can we do it a different
is
night?
there a
Can
different
we do it a
night?
different night?
I'd be happy any other night,
Travis says,
and I'd be really grateful
do
if
I
I
have a
could be
spot on my
included.
schedule
No,
that's
I
open?
understand.
Yeah, no,
that.
Travis
Say
probably
depending
like
on
what
the
you
night.
in their meeting.
Just so that they're trying to figure out a date.
I'm flying with my dad to DC. He's being honored with an honor flight, and I get to accompany him.
Oh,
So I'm very excited about
Oh, yeah,
that.
Todd did that. That's
Good,
great.
okay.
But they didn't want to change the plane for our council meeting, unfortunately. So like
No, but-
I just can't be here that day.
But that helps knowing what day that around that you might be able to do it.
Tuesday nights?
Have you asked them if they would do that?
What's your schedule?
What's the date?
The 13th? May 13th?
Tuesday, May 13th?
Oh, I won't be here that day, but again, that's,
Are you going to be on just the night?
what's that?
Are you going to be gone just the night? Are
Well,
you
we'll
gonna?
leave by noon, I gotta be down there at Cedar Rapids by 5.
Okay, so, but you're around.
Travis, is there a chance you could just send out a doodle poll and find
Yeah.
a time?
That's a
Yep.
good,
I can do that.
let's
Instead
do
of us
that.
doing this in a committee? And if it needs to be when I'm not here, I understand. I know I'll have things to say one way or the other, so.
No,
Well, it is a work session, so one option is that, Travis, you pose questions, we write those questions to you. I mean, you could just talk to each one, like, what do we need to move forward?
Time, quite frankly. We had a little bit of a spinning plate discussion I don't remember if it was the last council meeting or the one before that, but it is really just quite frankly a workload issue.
Okay.
With trying to prioritize which projects. I know, and I certainly understand that not trying to go down the same path the school did, where here's the dollar amount, we don't really have an overall design, we just know what we expect costs to be approximately, and asking for permission for that bond issuance. I'll be very candid. Right now, the focus has been the Decorah Athletic Complex, Carlson Park, all of the stuff to try and catch this construction window yet. And so it has just been kind of, we don't have time for this right now.
So what do you feel like the bare minimum is we need for a bond?
Again, that's greatly gonna depend on the appetite, whether it's remodel of existing and new construction. It's too many variables to give a good answer for that.
Is there a different process than a work session? Like, what if, honestly, we all gave you the feedback onto what we think? Or do you feel like that's too?
Even if it is the feedback to me, it is still, I then have to work with, whether it's the architectural firm on the renderings or do the additional research, which, again, it's not that I'm opposed to doing that necessarily, but something else has to not get done for that to happen.
Okay, how about, Steve, if we can't find a date between now and the 19th, well, let's put it on the 19th. And if you don't like what we did, you can make comments after that.
Sure.
Okay.
That makes sense.
If we can find a date before the 19th, great. If we can't, let's do it on the 19th.
I mean, we can't vote on anything.
No,
anyways,
no,
so, I
it's
mean,
just a work
she's
same.
gonna have a chance to have input anyways.
Right.
Okay.
But if,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Of course, like,
six of us say,
Right.
do this, then,
my question for Travis then, even if we're discussing that on the 19th, is that still hard for you to be able to get stuff for us for that?
I would say if you want stuff ahead of time, please let me know. Give me a couple days on what information you're wanting to provide that you haven't seen up to date. If there's specific documents you want to make sure in Dropbox. Again, this has been, I mean, this project spans my hiring here. So there's any number of documents about this project. Let's see. If you know of questions, again, please give me some time to do the research on it. And then once the decision's made, know that it's still gonna take time to get
Okay.
that result.
and my understanding is there's no new information. So really, it's on, what Brunton is asking and what you're asking is, we need to be more clear. So we have to figure out our own clarity on this issue with the documents we have.
Well, and even, yes, and even with the clarity, more so of the clarity on, how do I put this? On prioritization. If this is gonna be something that is at the forefront, I need you guys to say that as well.
Okay,
All right?
okay, anything else?
Happy spring, everybody, happy spring.
Really? Cody?
Not a whole lot. Last weekend, I had I got to help plant trees with Mark and the
Yes.
fellas on the park staff, and that was a lot of fun. And also members of DHPT, and I didn't get there until the second part of the planting, but it was good vibes, and planted a whole bunch of oak trees, and it's fun getting to know Mark a little bit better, and it's a good Earth Day activity. So
Good. Randy?
I have nothing this evening, Mayor.
Steve?
Just a report out from the Hotel Motel Marketing Committee, the Tourism Committee. So just as a reminder, out of our hotel motel tax dollars, the council allocates $150,000 and creates this committee that determines how to use it to best market Visit Decorah to the wider world. And so there's a committee, with representatives from the business community and the chamber and also a couple council members. KO and I are on it as well. We had a meeting last week where we planned and adopted a budget for next year. The budget sort of has, to break it down really simply, there's three main parts. The first one, the biggest price, the biggest investment the city makes is hiring a staff person to be kind of the tourism director under the chamber. And so that's one thing. They also spend a fair amount of money promoting tourism to Decorah in trade publications and other advertisements and online. And then they make sure that there's a Decorah presence at a few trade shows where having a table or a booth is a good way to drive interest and bring people to our community to enjoy the great thing that we have. So really grateful for all the residents who volunteer their time to serve on this committee. I feel good about where the budget is for next year for this event. And I think that this is one of those things where probably the money we choose to spend, that we allocate to this group as a council, is something that comes back to our community kind of in multiples. That's how these things work. And so this is kind of an investment, not just in tourists coming to town and having a good time, but that's also an investment in our downtown businesses. It's an investment in our service providers. It's an investment in folks who rent out space and own space in our hotels. So kind of neat to be part of that, and that's the report out of that important meeting. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Kirsten?
Oh, Mayor, I'm
Oops.
sorry. I just wanted to also say that we did ask for a representative to come in sometime in the fall and make a presentation to
Good.
council, kind of explaining what they did during the tourist season. So you'll hear more details later on.
Thank you.
As Steve mentioned, we're both on that hotel motel committee. Just a couple of highlights that they talked about to counter on what Steve had said. They talked about the marketing
aspect of it. Bicycling is gonna be one of their biggest focuses. They're gonna focus on this year, so they're really be pushing the bicycling aspect of what we have to offer here in Decorah. They are be in attendance at a international travel thing down in Chicago, and Alyssa Ritter, who's our representative, she was really excited because their booth happens to be next to the Disney booth, which is gonna generate a lot of interest. They are printing up a new visitor's guide, which shows all the highlights of everything that's going on around here. That should be out here within the next month or so. And Viking Cruise Lines will be back this year. I think they said there'll be 11 trips or something like that they'll be making through Decorah here, so. Just a couple highlights that they talked about. One other thing, I want to thank the Park Rec program, our representatives, for getting the signs out onto the bike trail this weekend. There was a ton of people out there, and the signs were all out there reminding people proper trail usage and the rules of the trail and stuff like that. So good job on getting that out there on time and hitting it up before everybody got out there. So thanks.
I have nothing tonight.
Brent?
I kind of want to echo what Steve and Kirsten said about tourism in Decorah. I was at a conference in northern Minnesota this past week, and it was staggering the amount of people that knew where we were at, that come to Decorah, that talk about how much they like this town, and it's a yearly expedition and adventure for them to come down here. So, you know, those marketing teams that are putting that out through the tourism are doing a great job in getting the word out, because people know where we're at and they enjoy our community.
It's nice to hear from outside when you've gone and experienced that. Okay. Mayor's Monarch Pledge Day. I have a limited voice of sorts, so I've asked Brent to read this. Can you read the Monarch Pledge, please?
I sure can. Proclamations, Mayor's Monarch Pledge Day. Whereas the monarch butterfly is an iconic North American species whose multi-generational migration and metamorphosis from caterpillar to butterfly has captured the imagination of millions of Americans, and whereas both the western and eastern monarch populations have seen significant declines, with less than 1% of the western monarch population remaining, while the eastern population has fell by as much as 90%. And whereas the city of Decorah recognizes the human health ultimately depends on well-functioning ecosystems, and that biodiverse regions can better support food production, healthy soil and air quality, and can foster healthy connections between humans and wildlife. And whereas cities, towns, and counties have a critical role to play to help save the monarch butterfly, and Decorah is thriving to become a leader. And whereas on April 4th, 2022, I, Lorraine Borowski, signed the National Wildlife Federation's Mayor's Monarch Pledge and have officially committed to taking meaningful action to protect the monarch butterfly. And whereas the city of Decorah has committed to continuing work on items with city partners, and whereas every resident of city of Decorah can make a difference for the monarch by planting native milkweed and nectar plants to provide habitat for the monarch and pollinators in locations where people live, work, learn, play, and worship. And now, therefore, I, Lorraine Borowski, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of Decorah, Iowa, do hereby proclaim April 4th, 2022 and 2025 as Mayor's Monarch Pledge Day in City of Decorah, Iowa, and encourage all residents to participate in community activities that support and celebrate monarch conservation.
Thank you very much. I had done the pledge a couple years ago, but then hadn't done it probably during COVID and later. And so I appreciated Brent's nudge at one point, and then I got the information. But then I also talked to Mallory at Park and Rec, and a lot of the things that they have on the survey for what we can do, they do a lot of those things. So Mallory, Miriam Patton, and Sophie from the library. Mallory will be the one to do the reporting for it, but they will document all the things that we've done for the year and pass it on. So thank you very much. Consent agenda.
Item A, minutes of the April 21, 2025 council meeting. B, claims. C, renewal Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service, Pulpit Rock Brewing Company. D, renewal Class B retail alcohol license, Quick Trip, number 629, 905 Short Street. E, renewal Class B retail alcohol license, Quick Trip, number 1081, 1101 Montgomery Street. F, Decorah 2024 Quarry Street improvements, pay application number 1. G, resolution setting public hearing for fiscal year 2025 amendment. H, Crater Run Trail special event, Scott Searcy and Decorah Parks and Recreation. I, tobacco license, Backwater Spirits and More. J, tobacco license, Casey's number 1591 at 401 College Drive. K, tobacco license, Casey's number 2183 at 1807 Old Stage Road. L, tobacco license, Fairway Stores number 589. M, reappointment of Steve Rundy to Civil Service Commission. And N, resolution approving contract and performance and or payment bonds for the water meter replacement project.
I move the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion made by Zittigren, seconded by Ms. Olenich. I did want to comment because I've been watching the Quarry Street patch, or it's not patching, it's paving. Just looking down the street, it looks great. It looks like it's going to be ready to open. Thank you. Any other further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Ms. Olenich,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Whittle,
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider a resolution authorizing internal advance for funding of urban renewal project. Can you give some background on that, please?
Yes, the city of Decorah has a development agreement with Brenton Holdings LLC for the Bluffside Cabins project. Staff attempted to certify to collect TIF revenues for the first payment, but the withholdings were not done because the dates on the development agreement do not correspond directly with the urban renewal plan. They should have been certified as TIF debt, but weren't. The proposed resolution would allow the city to first make payment of $16,508 from the general fund and then reimburse with TIF revenues the next fiscal year.
I make a motion to consider a resolution authorizing the internal advance for funding of urban renewal project.
Second.
Motion made by Neal, seconded by Olson. Further discussion? Hearing, seeing none. Roll call.
Neal,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Ms. Olenich,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Whittle,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Consider resolution approving assistant city clerk job description and pay matrix. And I think Carrie's working on this one.
Yes, what we did is we looked at the utility clerk building job description, and we have added duties to that position, and so this is what's coming up for the assistant city clerk job. What we're planning to do is that position will have more duties, and then we'll be looking at the office administration position. And what we're trying, the goal is within a year or less, to be able to free up some time from the office administration position so we're able to better assist Park and Rec Department. And so basically what we're doing is moving some job duties around, and also to improve the flow and the efficiency, so.
I make a motion to consider resolution approving the assistant city clerk job description pay matrix.
Second.
Motion made by Neal, seconded by Olson. Further discussion?
But just to be clear, this is staying with the 3 staff we have currently.
Yes, currently, and then reevaluate.
So I think, just to clarify what I think Councilmember Chisel was getting at was the utility billing clerk position would go away. It would not be filled and would be replaced with this
So
position.
we're going to spread it with the 3 that we currently have.
Correct. Right now, there is that vacancy with the utility billing clerk's retirement. we would not hire that position. This is what would get hired. And then, as Gary talked about, the office administrative assistant role, that position would be evaluated. Some of those responsibilities are going to this assistant position, which should allow for us to do some better efficiencies with the park rec.
So there'd be 4 included.
No, there's,
Including Carrie.
Right,
correct.
right, four total.
That's what I
right.
mean. We're
Yeah.
hiring somebody.
Yeah, to replace the utility billing clerk position.
Okay.
You know, we didn't do that right away, and we did wait purposely to see if we could do a better job or do it differently with the efficiency. We can't. We do need that 4th person, especially if we're gonna go to monthly billing. It's going to be better for the public. It's not necessarily gonna be better for our office. But we do think it's still the right thing to do. And so we did do, a few months without it, especially going with the computer conversions into the new utility software, but it's just, to me, as of right now, it's not realistic, so that's why within the year, we're hoping once everything else improves, that we can go and help with the Park and Rec Department and do the efficiency that way.
because they've never hired for their loss.
Position.
They what?
They never hired, there was already, we've already had a reduction in park rec staffing.
Right, and
Yeah.
hopefully with doing this, we would be able to,
Yep.
to lessen and not have as many, part-time
Mhm.
during the seasonal rush.
I guess my question is, for many years, we ran with 3 people when things were done manually. As things are getting done through automation, it would seem to me that that would lessen the workloads.
We're doing more. I mean,
when
with
we
the
went-
time that we're being spent on the planning and zoning with Greg and stuff, it's a lot. And with the keys right now, going out, and yeah, that will slow down, but honestly, it doesn't slow down that much. That window is constantly busy. We are doing way more now, in my opinion, than when I started as the deputy clerk.
And you're talking about way more of working with the public?
Working with the public, just there's more paperwork with the ordinances and everything that's put in place with the planning and zoning, the rental permits. We weren't doing that before.
Or even like the, within this own agenda, the downtown economic development grant program that requires follow-up agreements get filed. They have to submit stuff that goes to the clerk's office on, here's the proof that the repairs or whatever was done, along with the inspection. Here's our canceled check, proof of payment. Here's the invoices that came in to support that. So the additional programs that we take on, and this, please don't take this as a knock to council necessarily, that this is more of educational thing for the community. They see maybe 3 meetings that this is discussed at council and adopted at the council level. But meanwhile, from a staff perspective, it might be 20, 25 hours added to the year of additional work to implement. And that's reoccurring, right? So very seldom do cities give up programs and stop doing things. But the demand is always more and more and more. That's where we're at today.
Okay, well, I was just curious, 'cause
Yeah.
Yep.
the reason we'd gone to 4 in the office was to train replacements, because we had 2 longtime people that were closing in on retirements. That's why we hired extra back in the day. Not that many days ago.
I was going to say, maybe back of the day has altered because of the amount of work that's coming in.
You know, I'm really grateful that Randy asked these questions and that we're having this conversation. You know, I'm not in the office. I don't know how busy it is, except, you know, when I go there, I often get quick service, and I appreciate that. You know, I certainly trust you, Carrie, that like things are busier, that monthly billing adds some things, and that some of the programs we're adding. I do think that, you know, something that we've talked about now a couple times this month in one place or another is something that we as a council, I think, owe it to the community to have a discussion, which is just, you know, Travis said it one way, I'll say it another way, which is just like cities often, you know, every year they ask, how can we do everything we did last year and then just a little bit more? And over time, we know what that looks like. We know that budgets go up. We know that staffs grow larger. We know that people feel more thin stretched. And you know, this isn't like saying we need to like stop or we need to start like, you know, this is the right place to stop. I believe you that we need this fourth person. I do think that as a council, we need to have some strategic discussions about, you know, if we're saying yes to new things, maybe we need to get better at saying no to things that are no longer needed. You know, like that we can't continue forever saying we'll do everything we used to do plus a little bit more each year. We need to find some things. If we're going to try to do new things, we need to also look at what we're doing and saying this maybe was good once, or we tried this and it didn't work. We need to not just be adding to the plates of our staff. We need to be taking things off. And I don't know how we have that discussion, or you know, hopefully staff can help us have it soon. But the number of big projects we have going, the sort of the accretion of staffing and demands for our staff in terms of like our budget and what it does to our budget, it's not a sustainable path, and I'd like to get off of it. As a council, I don't know when or how we have that conversation. I don't think it's in response to this position or this hiring. I think it's a bigger conversation than this. It sounds to me like our staff are saying we need this to do what we want to do. We need this new position. So I think we should adopt this resolution and hire this position, but not just keep putting off the conversation we need to have.
And I do want to point out, you know, new position was stated several times, and it is a new position created, but not a new body. I want to emphasize, Councilmember Chisholm pointed out that maybe several years ago that this fourth person in the office was added to serve as replacements for people that were coming up upon retirement. This new position will not be a new body, and as the job description's been drafted to have additional responsibilities associated with it from the utility billing position, I believe it's only like a $4,000 a year increase, I think, on the minimum side. Yeah. So like the ranges, they're all ranges. They're moving $4,000. So this is sending additional responsibilities to this position versus utility billing, and it still has a very close pay scale. We're not inflating that by any tremendous amount, that's for sure.
Any other further discussion? Roll call.
Neal?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Zittergrun?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Whittle?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Miscelinich?
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider an ordinance to amend section 9.58.030 of the Decorah Municipal Code regarding curfew exemptions. Second reading. Have you had any contact on this one?
None. So again, this was brought to light with a curfew citation, not in the exceptions listed, not a challenge here, but John saw that our current code is outdated and doesn't reflect a case law change. I want to say it was actually back in the 90s, right? From a long time ago, that this has not been updated to reflect.
I move the second reading of the ordinance.
I'll
Second.
second.
Motion made by Zittergrun, seconded by Chisel. Miscelinich, sorry. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Zittergrun?
Aye.
Miscelinich?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Whittle?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
I'd move to waive the third and adopt.
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay. A motion made by Chisel, seconded by, I heard it on my left
You
here,
can give it to Steve.
Zittergrun, to waive and adopt. Third reading? I don't know, it could be a, okay. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Zittergren.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Motion carried. Discuss and possible action on Hively Street light design and ownership. Travis?
Yes, so at the April 7th meeting, the council discussed professional service agreement with Urban Engineering for design of the streetlights for Hively Phase 1, where the discussion was primarily focused on the ownership of the lights, whether it was Alliant or the city. Staff was awaiting further financial figures from Alliant to analyze those life cycle costs, and so that action was tabled. A 50-year life cycle included in Dropbox is File 10. Does show significant savings to the city if the city has Alliant complete the design and installation, but then the city assumes ownership and associated maintenance costs, even if we assume that an additional meter charge would show up and we're unable to connect by tying into existing metering locations. And again, that full analysis is Dropbox File 10. So this shows Alliance costs for the initial design, installation, upfront pole payoff of just shy of $60,000. The preliminary estimated costs from Urban were, I want to say, in the 90s for this. Is that right, John? Higher? Yeah. And then again, we'd have to pay for design as well. With that, you can see, so there's two columns within the two, city-owned streetlights and Alliant-owned streetlights. The left side shows the inflated dollars, and the right side shows present worth, present cost of money. It does have replacing the luminaire heads every 10 years. 50 years would be the expected life cycle for those poles. At the end of the day, net present value, so current dollars for city-owned streetlights is about $86,000 and some change, and the Alliant ownership. Is that right, John? 86 versus 88? Did I not read that? Because I thought it had a significant savings on the city side.
Yeah, I don't think.
$2,200 difference.
You want to use the microphone, please? That one, the battery's worn out? Still working? Okay. Thank you.
There is a significant difference that Travis is talking about if you're looking at the poles, paying the monthly rent on the poles versus paying them off all up front. But in order to compare the apples and apples, I had to change the table from what Travis originally saw so that you are paying both of those figures off at the same time. The net effect is that it is still cheaper for the city to own and operate and maintain the lighting system than it is with Alliant doing that.
But only to the tune of about 2,000, a little more than that.
In that vicinity, yeah.
But we don't know what their pull charge will be. They could raise that at any time, right? Or are you saying we buy them off from Alliant and then they just own them?
I couldn't quite follow that, I'm sorry.
Well, wouldn't we have to pay a monthly pull fee?
No, you don't have to. They do give you the option of either paying a monthly poll fee or paying it off all up front. When you pay the monthly poll fee, there's a wide discrepancy in the 50-year time payoff there. If you're paying for everything up front so that you're doing the same with the city ownership versus Alliant ownership, it's going to be much more similar.
So John, just to make sure I understand, you're saying that if we were to go with Alliant, it'd be a better deal for us to pay up front, like to pay the poll fee up front, because otherwise it gets to be a worse deal with them?
What I'm saying is that Alliant buys lots of poles, and they can get them at a cheaper price than what you can with a contractor, and that for them to design and install the poles and then turn it over to the city is cheaper than for the city to go out and design and contract it itself. That's what we're seeing with the numbers there. The chart there, the table there is a life cycle analysis of the, if Alliant was after the point of construction, if they were to continue to own the lights and build the city versus the city owning the lighting system and maintaining it.
I make a motion that we have in,
Does that register with you there,
Well,
Travis?
I'm reading the email from Friday, John. So the 2,300 is an annual, or
yeah.
that's an annual savings, $2,300 per year.
What about that underneath line, total dollars
Because you have to, if
spent?
Alliant owns the poles, you pay a pole charge. That's what we ran into downtown.
Right, that total column at the bottom can't be correct. Because if you add up just look at the city cost, annual electric use plus basic service charge, which is the far right column of both sets. You've got a difference of, twice the amount of difference there.
Right.
Between the two. And you have the city cost for streetlight design and installation by Alliant that's the same for both. And so,
The difference is if the city owns the poles, every 10 years, we spend $3,000 replacing a luminaire, which eats up most of the,
most of the savings.
yeah. So it ends up being a $2,000 savings. I have a question about that. If a semi hits a pole, I mean, that's been known to happen, and the city owns it, we have to replace it, right?
Isn't that covered by insurance, Carrie?
We do turn that into insurance. It's going to be whoever had it, their insurance.
Okay. So you feel like this is a likely all-in cost? I mean, there aren't hidden things to owning the pole that will cost us more, so we should probably go with the city ownership since it's cheaper.
When you pay off all the lights up front, all the poles up front, there is a significant difference as opposed to stringing it out over 50 years and so on like that.
Okay.
This came in late for Travis, unfortunately, and on a Friday, and we had previously discussed a wider cost difference, but it does still pencil out as it is slightly less expensive for the city to own the lights after Alliant designs and installs them versus the Alliant continue to own and operate them.
I make a motion that we have Alliant install and design the lights, but that we take ownership of them.
Second.
Motion made by Neal, seconded by Olson. Further discussion?
I mean, even if it's just a modest savings, still worth it.
Yeah, I think we've seen ways in which Alliant finds ways to add rates.
Right.
Any further discussion?
I'll just note, while John said this came in late on Friday, it wasn't the last item that came in on Friday. Friday at what, 4? Yeah. So,
Roll call?
Neal,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Misselinich,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Motion carried.
John, thank you so much for doing this work. I tried to figure out this before and my head kind of spun. So thanks for putting it out here black and white and kind of helping us figure out what the best deal was. Really, really do appreciate it.
Discussion and possible action on fire rescue truck. Travis?
Yes, so the fire department's talked about this planning for past few years, whether it's been part of their reports or during budget season, about a new fire rescue truck purchased to replace the current 2003 rescue. Two companies have been consulted with in the planning for the fiscal 26 budget, which did include a $500,000 expenditure along with a $500,000 bond/commercial loan for revenue. The two companies have both stated the lead time upon order is 30 to 36 months out, with fire engines being custom built. It's Not like you go to the lot and you say, I'll take that one. Both companies have stated that payment would not be required until delivery. One does offer a little bit of a deduct, I believe it was less than $4,000, if the chassis is purchased upon their receipt of the chassis for them to do the build on. Staff is requesting permission from council on soliciting quotes with the intention of getting quotes solidified with the two already being worked with. You've seen in the existing, one quote is dated back in August, which was used again for budgeting purposes. That one was approximately $480,000, if I remember correctly. And then the other, Marion Fire, which would be probably standing less of a shot, was at $540,000 or so. And so we'd primarily focus on getting quotes from those two. And if I said Marion Fire, it's going to be pretty hard to fund that one. You could probably guess at where we're looking at the lowest bid coming in from.
I make a recommendation that we approve the, how do you want us to say that?
So if you want to do it as a motion to essentially green light staff to get
Solicit quotes.
Yep.
with the potential consideration in July. I did talk with Neil at Hacker Nelson just to confirm, because something that's come up on our audit in the past has been when we have a contract that we've entered into, even though it's not being paid yet, it shows up as an obligation. I asked him, do we need to show this in our budget for the next 3 years if it's a contract we've approved? I just would prefer to see it extend past July. Neil says we're okay. We don't have to show it knowing that we're not going to expend it for at least 2.5 more years.
Okay.
Great. Okay, so I make a motion that the city be allowed to get the green light, go ahead, get quotes on the fire truck to bring back to us in July.
Second.
Is that Olson?
Sure.
Motion made by Neal, seconded by Olson. Any further discussion?
We already have that in our budget for 26, right?
Correct.
500,000.
Yep.
Okay.
And so obviously not going to show up and
Right.
get paid for it in
Right.
26, but yeah, that's the lead time we're looking
Okay, good enough.
Roll call?
at. Neil?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Miss Linich?
Aye.
Zittergruen?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Whittle?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Motion carried. Discussion and possible action on Hively Street intersection improvements, RFQ scoring committee. Travis?
Yes, so actions possible but not required. The council's issued the RFQ at the April 7th meeting. Staff so far has held 6 meetings with consultants that are interested in responding to the RFQ. Others have inquired but haven't set up meetings to discuss further with us. Responses are due this Friday, May 9th at 4:00 p.m. If council members would like to participate in the review and scoring to recommend to the council as a whole of the RFQ, it'd be advisable to have council take action to assign them to a scoring committee tonight. The RFQ does say that the desire is to evaluate based simply on submittals, but if we do end up with 6 responses, it may be needed to have interviews. And on the RFQ, it does state May 14th and 15th would be the interview dates. The intent is we would have somebody scored, a recommended scoring to the council on May 19th for council approval. It's not impossible by any means, but it is easier to coordinate these interview schedules if we need them, if there's no more than 3 council members that are also participating in this.
I assume they're gonna be in the daytime hours.
More than likely,
Will
but
be-
consultants can adjust hours too.
Will it be
But-
summertime? Will this
No,
happen?
May 14th for
May
May
14th
14th,
and
all right.
15th. Those would be the 2 dates that if somebody would like to assist with the scoring, I'd ask they'd be available those 2 dates, because again, that's what the RFQ stated we would hold interviews on.
I can't. I'm booked those 2 days.
15th.
I think I'll be out of town as well.
Well, that takes two.
I'm willing.
Randy?
I'm sorry, what time of day did you say?
Not necessarily a time that's been established, but more than likely we try and schedule them during the day. Just 14th and 15th were the 2 days we said that we would hold those interviews.
I'm out if it's during the day, but if it's willing to be,
That would be a Wednesday and a Thursday.
So you have one.
unless you can do them at 4 or after.
Well, and certainly staff will be helping
Yeah.
providing input as well.
I'm in the same boat as far as the daytime goes.
Bill?
Would we be able to see the quotes
Yeah.
beforehand and then?
That would be
get any
helpful.
Questions back to you?
Yeah, so there was a recent state law change that they won't be quotes, they'll be qualifications.
Okay.
So now, the way this has to work is the council will, and we've seen it once before, but there was only one response to the Winnebago Energy District RFQ response. But we're not allowed to evaluate based on proposed rates. You cannot, now Iowa law says you can't take into consideration the dollar amount proposed. You have to take a consultant based on their qualifications, rank those, and then you start with the top ranking. And if you fail to negotiate a price point that's acceptable, then you move on to the next, then the next. That's how that has to work now.
So a motion would be for, motion for Councilmember Steve Zittergrun to participate in the grading and interview of the RFQ process?
Yep.
I'll make a motion, if Steve's still willing, that Councilmember Steve Zittergrun participate in the grading and the interview of the RFQ process.
I am certainly willing, but I also feel like staff knows the council pretty well, and I do trust their ability to rate the RFQs or the proposals. So happy to learn about the process, though, and I'd like to observe it if possible. So I appreciate it.
So we have a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Parker, seconded by Olson. Further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call?
Parker,
Aye?
Olson,
Aye.
Zittergrun.
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Whittle,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Ms. Linich.
Aye.
Discussion and possible action on downtown economic development grant fiscal year 26 allocation.
Okay. And with this being on the agenda, that's the reason I pointed this before we were having that conversation. It's just something that was fresh in my mind. So the city adopted this program last year and allocated $150,000 in fiscal '25, half of which were sustainability funds, the other half were hotel motel. And the city awarded approximately $137,000 of that $150 to projects. The program itself stipulates funding shall be established annually by the council, and since fiscal '26 budget has been adopted and certified to the state, we can now move forward with fiscal '26 allocation. So the budget for '26 includes $53,700 in hotel motel revenues for council contingency. So again, that's the revenues we expect to come in, about $500,000. And fiscal '26 budget also would have a remaining fund balance of over $500,000 in sustainability funds after expenses with expected revenues. Staff recommends, with the level of projects we have that are currently on the plate, still haven't awarded, that are reliant on fundraising efforts, and several of those are over budget, that council allocate a lesser amount than last year, and at this point would recommend that they all come from sustainability funds.
I have a question about the grant
Mhm.
for, so last year there was the complicating factor where we realized that these grant funds can only go to businesses, and they can't go to an individual who owns a building.
That was a separate program, not the city's program.
Okay, so we can award these grants. I just want to be very clear. We can award them to individuals who own downtown buildings who are going to make significant improvements in their buildings to the outside facade. They-
Outside facade or upper story residential creation or restoration,
And they can be a private individual.
correct?
Okay.
Yeah, no, that, I know what challenge you're talking about. That was actually a separate program, not of the cities.
Okay.
What does the council think about 75,000 from sustainability for next year? Or staff, is that something that seems in line with your recommendation?
You know, that first year, of course, you're gonna have a lot come out. Those grants all have 18 months to fulfill. I actually just received, I think 2 now, just the second one today to go ahead that they've completed their grant. But there were, I believe, 12 projects awarded. So even at 75,000, I don't think we'll end up turning anyone away. And I say that, watch this, end up being an influx. But that'd be a good problem to have, right? But at 75,000, I think that will be ample for what we would see in a second year application period.
Yeah, I think this program continues to be a great idea for all the same reasons that it was last year. This is our most economically productive, sector of town. This is the town whose tax dollars subsidize a lot of the town's other business and a lot of our ability to provide services and goods to other parts of the community. And so I think it's good that we pivoted last year to incentivizing and sort of rewarding people who want to make investments in our downtown. And it was a successful program. I mean, how many projects did you say, Travis?
I want to say it was 12 projects awarded.
I mean, that's real physical changes that are happening to, our most prominent and public area. And I'd like to keep that momentum going. At the same time, I totally agree that the sort of financial uncertainty that's facing us makes it make sense maybe to take our foot off the gas a bit. And so as long as no one has strong objections, I think we should do a motion for 75,000 from sustainability.
I have a question. If the cap, it's 25 cap, right? But how many of the 12 projects, what was their average ask?
Give me a second, I'll pull that up.
$11.
137,000 out for 12 projects. That'd be about 11,000.
Okay, so it ended up being
Well, here's my suggestion. I could go either way, but if we made it an even 100,000, that's 10 projects, which is 2 less than last year. If we don't spend it all, I mean, I don't know. I was just thinking 100,000.
So it did end up being 10 projects.
Oh.
And 25,000 is the upper story residential cap. The exterior renovation and repair is 10,000. We did have 2 of the exterior renovation and repairs that were below, because again, that's a 3-to-1 match requirement. Their projects did not meet, their match didn't get them up to a $10,000 grant. So we did have 2 below that.
I can go either way. I was just throwing it out in terms of like,
I move we continue the program with an amount for next fiscal year of $100,000 out of sustainability funds.
I second.
Motion made by Citigroup, seconded by Neal.
And there's still 13,000 left over from this year's program to be in there too.
So, yeah, I would say they would just go revert back.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know if we kept moving it forward and build up a reserve there.
Nope, they don't move to, they're obligated funds. They don't move to any kind of special capital fund or
Okay,
anything.
all right.
I would just echo what Steve had to say as well. think we've seen so many projects that have been trying to move forward downtown, and we know how expensive some of those can get into, so the more we can incentivize this and keep pushing people to remodel some of these buildings, I think that's the better for us.
So too.
Especially, I think we've got a lot of buildings trying to be sold, and it'd be nice if people knew this was out there, so if someone buying a building knows that the city's there to help them. It'd be great. Do you think there's some turnover happening?
Do we know, Travis, how many of last year's grant recipients did add any did anyone add residences as part of this program? Upper story or remodel?
I believe one of them has completed one upper story unit with a second one in the works.
And are these new housing units or remodeled ones?
I believe one was a renovation, and the other one is a more substantial bring it back online.
Thank you.
There are two other upper story residential that we're going to be new, like bringing them back online.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that the council can appreciate that for, you know, an amount of money that is not nothing for sure, but for an amount of money that is dwarfed by what many other communities spend to incentivize new housing. We are incentivizing new housing and investments in our downtown. And that's something worth celebrating and doubling down on. So, you know, like, I just read something today out of Pennsylvania where they were spending something like $700,000 in 6 years per unit that they were able to add to their housing stock. This is exactly the kind of incentive that's, you know, we work together with people who are willing to make investments in their own property, and I think it's really spurring a lot of good investment in our community. So I'm glad about this.
Totally
This is
agree.
great to hear about.
Okay, roll call?
Zittergrun? Aye. Neal?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Whittle?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Miscelinich?
Aye.
Okay, I want to make one comment, just because I almost made a comment when we were talking about the position with the clerk. But I do think too often government talks about cutting and downsizing and getting smaller, and I am much more interested in the words of investment and building. And I do think this is a perfect opportunity to think about investment. And an example of why it is, yeah, we're going to invest $100,000 in the downtown, but then we need to invest in our staff so that we didn't just add something to their plate where they're like, oh my gosh, one more thing. So,
Thank you, I appreciate that. Discussion and possible action on bridge mural proposal from Pete Teacup.
Okay, so this is an actionable item that's possible, but not necessary. So Pete Teacup did come and present the idea of a mural as part of a public comment at a previous meeting on the underside of College Drive Bridge along Trout Run Trail. 2 council members have requested this topic be on the agenda. Staff's understanding is that a combination, that SMID is also discussing the project at their meeting on Wednesday. And at this time, the request isn't financial on the city side, but with the bridge being an asset of the city's, if the council is supportive of the proposal, we should take action to allow this to be done on the bridge.
Okay. Christopher and I have been in touch with Mr. Teacup over the last few weeks since he made his presentation. Should the council approve it, he's excited to get going on this. He did learn of one other thing, and I think Travis included it on our sheet here today. And he realized that he should power wash the actual pillar first before he starts painting on it, so that would add an additional $350 to it. Christopher and I have talked to several people that are interested in helping fund this particular item, and so I don't think it'll come as any cost to the city by the time we get done with this. I think Christopher's talked to some other people that where we could actually buy the supplies that would actually give us a better discount and be a little bit cheaper, and I'll let him refer to that and take it from there.
Yeah, so as Travis kind of disclosed, SMID will be having a conversation about this project in particular on Wednesday as well. So Just had a previous conversation with Travis as well, just referencing SMID district, and this actually is in the SMID district. I presented this conceptual project to everybody else on SMID and felt like this would be a potential great use of funds that we have within SMID right now. In conversations with some of the other members on SMID, as of right now, it seems that we do have a lot of support for this project, so I think the conversations will go well on Wednesday. And as well as what Kirsten said, I know Pete had initially said that he got his quote from another business here in Decorah. I had a suggestion from another SMID member to actually check in with ACE, which is actually also in the SMID district, and they were actually able to provide a competitive quote that was a little bit lower, and that was good, and conversation points with some of these other SMID members, because that reaffirmed support from a few of them on that area of things. So
I have one comment, just as a, I guess, ornithologist. I would like to see the wood duck changed. Wood ducks are actually not common on the Upper Iowa. So if he was willing, I'd suggest something like a heron of something. But as we're thinking about representative of Decorah, I personally love wood ducks. But
Okay. I mean,
I would suggest,
I'm sure
just
Pete-
throwing it out to Pete. I know Pete was sort of like, well, he wasn't sure what the third image was going to be.
right.
But I would suggest something indicative of the Upper Iowa more than a wood duck.
I think he'd be open to that.
Yeah, me too.
He's just anxious to do this project, so
Yeah.
whatever suggestions we can offer on it.
So if you're talking to him, you could just
Yeah,
say,
sure.
what about a great blue heron?
That'd be great.
Or a goose.
Yeah.
Just saying, they like to hang out in that area.
Or
Like
a
a thousand-
woodchuck,
a thousand geese.
muskrat.
Represent the geese population, just saying.
Honestly, even an otter would be more than a wood duck,
Yeah, we could-
and an otter would be fun.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think, like you said, he just threw that one out there.
No, I know he
as a
did.
Possible third one, so.
But I know you're
I think he'd be-
communicating with him, and
He'd be open to it, yeah.
my friends on Audubon would have been remiss if I didn't mention that.
thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Do we have a motion? I don't think we've had a motion
We don't.
yet.
I make a motion that we support the painting of the College Drive Bridge.
Second.
Motion made by Neal, second by Olson. Further discussion?
The only-
When was he planning on doing this?
He's anxious to get going as soon as possible, pending approval from us, obviously, but, yeah, he's anxious to get going as quick as possible.
Okay.
What were you thinking?
Well, I'm just thinking with all, if we're gonna be tearing up and working along in there, how's that gonna impact?
Oh, the bridge. Shouldn't unpack that part of the bridge.
Dust, dirt, whatever, if you're, I mean, if we're gonna do it right, but I don't wanna deter him from doing this.
If he's
delay
wanting to
him.
get starting right away, he should beat the work right on the bridge
Bridge
there.
itself,
He
yeah.
should beat
Okay,
that.
I mean, I'm
Yeah,
just,
I don't think it will take
yeah, well,
all that
that's
long.
fine, I
No,
just
that's a
wanted
good-
to make
a
sure.
good point, though.
And
yeah.
also to make him,
That's a good
you know,
question.
just bring that to his
Right,
attention.
will
too.
do, yeah.
What I was gonna add is, I would say, and this is probably, hopefully John will jump in here too. I would say this falls under the city's donation policy, similar to what the Park Rec has.
Right.
So he's going to make this mural, he's gonna do this painting. This does not obligate the city of Decorah to maintain this mural in perpetuity. It is now our mural after he paints it, and ours to do with what we choose moving forward, right?
He's aware of that?
Yep.
Or you need to make him aware of that?
Face with them on
Okay.
that, yeah.
Right. I'm just publicly stating that so that we don't have a
No.
public outcry. Well, we'll probably still have a public outcry down the road, but just throwing that
Yeah.
out there.
I agree.
I don't want to speak for him, but knowing how excited he is to do this, I would imagine he'd be willing to touch up and fix things that go awry with it down the road, so.
I think Travis is just saying we're not selling city property
Right,
for someone to
right.
build a mural
Well,
on.
not only that, but let's say something, I don't even want to say something happens to the bridge, but, you know, let's say this paint continues to fail and stuff, and we can't get it adhered or whatever. This is, you know, if Paul's willing to come in and touch ups, that's great, but
Or his brother Pete.
this is not an obligation on the city's part to maintain this in perpetuity. And if for some reason the council says we're gonna change the mural there, that is the city's right. trying to
Okay.
save some potential.
Okay. Roll call?
Ne- Yes. Neal.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Zittergren.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miscellaneous.
Aye.
Very good. Consider mayoral appointment for Jarita Bollick-Burson to Planning and Zoning Commission. I did have 2 applications, or excellent applications. I did, the choice that I made, I felt had a little more experience than the second one, but I would also keep the second, and I think Stephanie Tomlins was the second application. I'll keep that on file. If something should come up, I would all feel really good about offering her something on a different committee. But I did choose to put Jarita Bollick-Burson to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I move the appointment.
Second?
Motion made by Zittergren, seconded by Olson. Further discussion? Roll call?
Zittergren.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miscellaneous.
Aye.
We still have 2 vacancies on the Decorah Human Rights Commission. Any other matters?
If I might throw out, I'll send that doodle poll tomorrow. Please do your best to respond as soon as
Okay.
possible so that we can get that possible meeting scheduled.
Over the weekend, for some reason, I was thinking of the hecticness in this world, and sometimes I got down to appreciating what I have and being grateful. And I don't do this very often, and I don't want to do it on my last day. So what I want to do is tell this council and the staff how grateful I am for their willingness to put forth the work that we have and also to be accounted for and speak up at the meetings. But I want to pass that on to all of you because, you know, it's a treat when you're having good discussions. We're doing lots of things. We're extending Travis's plates that he has to do. But I just wanted to make sure that you knew how much I was grateful for the work that all of you do. So,
I did have one more thing to add, too. I can't believe we forgot all about this, but we had the ribbon cutting for the VA clinic
Oh,
out there where
yes.
the mayor was there to cut the ribbon.
yeah.
It's an exciting new thing we've got for the city of Decorah. Our veterans will no longer have to travel to Iowa City to get care. They'll be able to stay here locally, and probably a tri-state area will be able to utilize this facility. It's a beautiful facility out there.
Oh,
and
gorgeous.
adds a lot to the city of Decorah, so.
And I don't think we'll have a meeting before Police Week, right? So, thank you to our police force very much. So, Police Week is coming up. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
I'd move to adjourn.
Thank you.